there, my name is Rashi. I believe we all have had an incredible journey in life. Here on this podcast, I will be sharing the lessons I have learned along the way and will also have guests from all walks of life to have open and honest conversations with on issues and topics that affect us in our everyday life. I hope you will be part of this beautiful tribe. So let's begin. Hi guys, you are listening to Let's Be Rational. I'm your host, Rashi, and today we are here with yet another episode on the podcast with a dear friend of mine, Penny Mentiplay. Thanks, Penny, for joining in. How are you?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm great, thank you. Bit chilly on today, but good.
It is a bit cold. So Penny, I know Penny through a mutual friend. We have known each other for a while now. And we also did a podcast earlier last year, and it was on, we talked about relationships, on how we can reconnect or sort of reclaim our lost paths in case we have a relationship failure. And today we thought of talking about something, some more experiences and some more learnings that Penny has had. So Penny, as I know her, she wears many hats. She is a mother to 4 beautiful kids. She's also a coach at Relationships Reconnect. She's also a teacher. She plays some beautiful piano, and she's an amazing dancer that I've witnessed myself. So let's get this started. Penny, I just wanted to let's just talk about what we are going through during these unpredictable times. Like this whole quarantine situation has taken over our lives in a way that we had never anticipated. For some people, it has taken a toll in terms of their emotions, in terms of unpredictability they're facing. It could be regarding their jobs, could be regarding a relationship. It's been weird. Like I personally have felt a lot of emotions, and they were just arising from the fact that I didn't know, because I had so many plans, like as everyone else, like we were thinking we would be doing so many things this year. I had a few things laid out for me, but I think just 9 out of 10 plans have just been like, I can't do it anymore. And sort of life has taken sort of a really bizarre turn. How are you coping with this quarantine situation? How has it been for you?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I think the human experience is there's variations, but I think across the board there's a lot of commonality in what we're experiencing, because we're all humans. So we all come with emotions. We all come with fears and a deep sense of survival. So when we're faced with something like what we've been, experiencing in the last few months, a worldwide pandemic, a virus that can't seem to be kind of pinned down, something we've never experienced before, and a big threat to people, and a real threat, because people have lost their lives. People have come down very, very sick, and it has also shut down economies. So, and that means people have lost jobs and things like that. So for me, I guess personally, I feel blessed because I have had work. Okay, so I haven't had to deal with a huge loss of income and a loss of livelihood in that way.
Yeah.
So for me, that underpinning of stability has helped immensely. And when I think about people who have lost their jobs or faced with an inability to live their lives in the way and pay for the things that they need to pay for. That is a huge stress. It can cause trauma. It can become such a large threat. Not only do we have the threat to our health, but a threat of livelihood, and so that can certainly and has caused a lot of trauma and stress for people. So for me, the biggest hurdle has been adjusting to the lack of social contact, and also the online process. I'm used to being out and about. I'm used to talking to people in person. I use the phone a lot, but I'm not usually doing a lot of visual stuff like on screens and stuff. So for me, and learning a lot of online platforms, my brain function was just overloaded, and what came with that. So the stress for me was the unknown of trying to learn new things that I hadn't learned, but not in a way that was systematic and gradual. It seemed to be, all at once I had to learn this whole set of different things. And that's, I guess, put me into overwhelm a couple of times. So, I've had my meltdowns at times, and it took me a few weeks to get used to that. And I seriously could tell the day that I came out of the brain fog, because I could finally think clearly, and I could actually tap back into my creative flow. So prior to that, for the few weeks, I just really felt kind of, when you're in a boat and you're sort of rocking and you're all at sea and you don't really know, there's no stability. That was how I was feeling. So we're looking at a lot of levels here, because I've tapped into, I've talked about the level of base level of our health, the level of our livelihood in terms of our ability to pay for the things that we need to. Income-wise, financially, and then the other aspect of trying to adjust to a new way of doing things, learning things very, very in a very steep, quick learning curve, exponentially almost, and the kind of stresses. So all those things produce stress in our minds, in our bodies, that we all have to work through and deal with. And some people have better, I guess, more skills to deal with those. Some people have strategies that help them to cope and to manage, and other people really, really struggle.
Yeah. It's been like, I'll tell you what happened with me and how I was coping with these emotions, because I knew that I wouldn't have work for like 2-3 months. Luckily, I have work now. I'm starting next week. So I was constantly telling myself that, it's fine. I have savings. I'll be fine financially. I don't have a job. It puts my sort of takes me a little backwards in terms of my career, in terms of my savings, because I really wanted to invest that money somewhere else. Now I can't do that. But at the same time, I was constantly telling myself that, no, you have got it so much better than other people. Like, there are people actually dying. And, well, which is a good thing. Like, it's a good thing to have perspective. But at the same time, I was feeling I was denying myself feeling that emotion, that I am feeling overwhelmed, I am feeling anxious, and I am feeling stressed about it. But I think for a month, or maybe more than a month, I just, whenever the thought would come, I would not think about, I would try to say to myself that, no, you can't, like, you shouldn't worry about these things, because you're privileged in a way. And I feel like that's also a bit of a problem, because then I was holding on to that sort of stress, and I felt that stress in the ways I was doing things. For example, I would just procrastinate to the point where literally I need to get things done, and I wasn't getting them done. Like, when it comes to like paying bills or talking to my parents, I think I was somewhere even like sort of avoiding, not all the time, but like I've noticed myself doing that. I was and I think it's the way your body and your mind react sometimes, and you don't even know why you're doing it. There's absolutely
Mm,
nothing physically wrong that you can see. There is nothing to worry, but then inside, but you know that your body or your mind is holding on to some sort of stress that you're not accepting or you're not willing
mm,
to sort of let out in some form.
mm,
But now
mm,
I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna, if I am feeling overwhelmed, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna let myself feel that, instead of
mm.
saying that it's okay, it's okay, it's okay to have perspective, but at the same time there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong in feeling anxious or feeling stressed. So yeah, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I have a question to, if
Yeah.
that's okay. What was it that gave you the, I guess, the realization that you were holding on to this, and how did you end up letting that go and actually tapping into and recognizing and acknowledging the feelings?
I literally for a week didn't do anything, which
Mm,
is bizarre. Like I was in a constant um like I was doing really well. Like I was doing podcasts every week. I was um doing a lot of other things.
mm,
I was working on my assignment. I was recording a few stuff for my vlogs. Like I'm starting a YouTube channel. Like there were a lot of things that I was doing. Then suddenly I stopped for a week, and I don't know. I just felt, and I remember like sleeping for like 12 hours in a row, and I would not want to get out of my bed.
mm,
And
mm,
yeah, it just suddenly happened. Like it just, and then I was like, you know what? This is just quarantine. Maybe I'm lazy. But I remember I wasn't even feeling tired. Like sometimes you feel tired and that's why you're in bed. But I was like, I'm
mm,
not feeling tired. Why am I lying in bed? Like I
mm,
have these many things to do and I still didn't do this, still didn't do it.
mm,
So I think for a week, I literally lost a week because I just didn't do anything. And the more I didn't do things, the more
mm,
stress I kept adding onto myself. And then after a week, I was like, yeah, I started having doubts, like, you know, those feelings of self-doubt and all of that, like a little bit. I'm
mm,
usually very like self-assured. I'm a very assured person, but sometimes I
mm,
get into that negative space and I realize I caught myself doing that.
mm,
That, you know, I was going into that negative state of mind.
mm,
And at the same time I was saying to myself, I remember like now I have figured out my finances, but I was at a point where I was like, no, I don't have money next week. Like, but even then I
mm,
was like, no, it's, you know, I'm okay. Like I wasn't accepting it. I don't know what it is, but
mm,
yeah, I went through that 1 week or like probably like 9 days,
mm,
and then I was like, no, it's fine. You're feeling stressed, you're feeling anxious, it's just feel that, don't avoid it. Because if you
mm,
avoid it, it's gonna sort of translate in some other ways, like for example me just lying in bed and just avoiding everything, not doing anything.
mm.
um
And
yeah.
then once you acknowledged it, what did you do? What happened? What shifted? Did you feel anything shift?
Yeah, I started so I just started going on morning walks that gave me a bit of clarity. I was like, you know, I'm going to start one thing at a time.
Mm,
I'm not going to feel overwhelmed with work because I know I've wasted some time. And I was feeling like I can't, you know, I just started, and that sort of going for morning walks gave me a little bit of clarity. And I then just started doing things, not a lot. I'm still like, I feel like
mm,
sometimes I feel stressed. I'm actually feeling much better now because I have a job. I think it could just be that,
mm,
like, I was
mm,
feeling I don't have a job, I don't know when will I start working, what's going to
mm,
happen.
mm,
Now I'm fine, but I know I went through that sort of stage where
mm.
I was
Yeah.
holding that sort of stress. And I know, like, because we wanted to talk about like somatic experience and how it helps to alleviate
Yeah.
trauma or any kind of anxiety or stress from your body, and how
Mm,
your body tends to hold those sort of you
mm.
know.
Yeah. So what you just gave was a beautiful example of that, and that's why I was sort of wanting to draw out the process that you went through,
Yeah.
because what you clarified was that there was this moment where your body kind of shut down. Things just shut down. You're in bed. You didn't feel able to process the normal things that you would have been processing. Yeah. And
Yeah.
and procrastinating is a classic example of that, and avoidance. And, and yet those being able to recognize those symptoms or those things is actually a really amazing sense of self-awareness. Okay, so I want to start when we're talking about somatic experiencing. It's actually becoming really aware and self-aware of what is going on for us emotionally and where it's lurking or where it's sitting in the body. So just to give a bit of I guess a very brief outline of what somatic experiencing is about. It was kind of developed by a doctor called Peter Levine,
Yeah.
and it was pretty much to work with people who have experienced trauma and also PTSD, and it's actually founded in the idea that our survival instinct kicks in, and it's because of perceived threat. So talking about what's been going on in the pandemic and the whole COVID-19 situation is absolutely perfect, because there's been a perceived threat from globally for all of us, and we've already discussed a few. It's not just about the health side of things. There's been other perceived threats, and you explained how it was for you, with your changed circumstances and the sense of loss of your plans and things that you had to let go of and stuff that you had wanted to do. And so those perceived threats are like puts us in survival mode. So survival mode, most of us would know of as the flight and fight response. Yeah, response. Yeah. Okay. So our brain kind of steps back into this survival mode, which kind of shuts down our higher order thinking and our creative space, our creative brain, which is kind of the more rational side. So it kind of puts us in. It's kind of at the base of the back of our head. I mean, I'm not a neuroscientist, so I'm not going to give huge details about the brain and where it works, but certainly that part of our brain is that this kind of survival mechanism just kicks in. It actually prevents us from being able to kind of operate from those higher order cognitive thinking processes. So that's why we want to go to sleep. That's why we want to lie down. That's why we can't manage our daily life functioning. And that's what happened to me. I have to tell you, very similarly. It wasn't like, you know how I told you I was in this brain fog. There was just one day where I had a huge week of just this whole new thing, but with work and everything that was going on, and I just felt like I couldn't do anything. So I lied down on my couch with a blanket. I cried quite a lot, and then I just thought, you know what, my body is just needing to sleep. Like I just needed my head, everything just needed time out. And I just slept, and it was in the middle of the afternoon, and it was a 3.5-hour nap. And by the time I woke up, I felt, oh my goodness, I can't believe that that's what I needed right then. But the beauty of it was that I allowed myself that time. I acknowledged what I needed. Now, and you did the same thing. Recognizing that. Mm.
Yeah, I think that just sounds right. I also feel like during that 1 week where I was feeling very lazy, call it lazy or just trying to avoid doing things, and I literally wasted a lot of my time. I was also getting like a lot of flashbacks from my childhood and negative, like really bad experiences you've had in your life out of nowhere, like something that very amplified versions of little incidents that have happened in your life. And I was like, why am I even thinking about this? Like, it's bizarre. I don't know why did that happen. I think it's just because when you are in a negative state of mind, just even your thoughts are sort of contaminated in a way. I don't know what's the word, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm
I,
holding on to something. I don't know what it is.
Well,
Could be just
I've got
that.
a bit of a spin on it, given like the whole idea of the somatic experiencing. So what I didn't kind of complete about the about the kind of idea of what it is that when we have that perceived threat and we go into a flight, or freeze mode, the freeze mode is what happens when we just hold on to it, like we stop, right? And the energy of that flight and fight is actually really, really powerful energy. It's huge energy. And so when we freeze, we trap it. We trap it in our bodies. And sometimes when we experience trauma or perceived threat, we don't allow that energy to escape. So that energy just is in our body. And if you think about that kind of flight, fight, adrenaline, the kind of chemicals that are being surging in our bodies, there's a stress hormone called cortisol, and if we don't allow that stress hormone to express itself or discharge from our bodies in those moments, then like by either acting in flight or fight. So if we fight, we're using a lot of powerful energy in our body. If we're fleeing, we're also, we're running. If we freeze, we're just there. What are we doing? We're trapping it all, right? And so if those things are trapped in our body, what are they doing inside our body? All that energy, right? So the whole idea of somatic experiencing is to understand that we have this trapped energy that's actually not really good. It's a toxic thing. Cortisol is toxic for our body if it's held in, and it's going to do stuff to us. It's going to give us aches and pains. It can cause disease. It will affect the way we behave. Okay. So I think what you were just sharing about your flashbacks is really interesting, because I feel that some of that energy that you were kind of holding on to the stress. You mentioned that, right? So that's exactly what we're talking about. That we're holding in this energy that really needs to be discharged. And if you're holding it in, then that energy is working its way in the body and brain. So you're talking about what the mind was kind of going back into, unusual things, but it's tapping into past bad experiences, past trauma, right? Because the whole idea is that this is perceived threat. So if you're remembering at times in your life where you had some perceived threat in your childhood of some level, then it's connecting those things that's happening now in your moment of stress to what you've had in the past. And maybe they are things that have been undealt with, Freshie. I mean, we don't know, but what I'm saying is that maybe those things have also been held in your body for such a long time that this energy is recognizing it.
That makes a lot of sense. I think when you talk about like fight, flight, and freeze mode, I think in relationships you say that, like, when you're arguing with your partner, you either have like a flight, fight, or freeze. I'm
Shut down.
I'm the fight mode person.
It's probably more healthy for you. It depends on the way it happens with the relationship, I think, in terms of communication. But certainly, the fight does release the energy. So we really need to decide how we are discharging that energy. And people who have suffered trauma, deep trauma, like in accidents or abuse situations or deprivation, war. That you often hear about veterans coming back from war with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Those things, we need to have some kind of safe way to discharge it. Yeah.
So
it's fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff.
How did you get into this whole somatic experience? Is it part of your like program or coaching, or you just trying to like add on to your understanding of dealing with traumas?
So the programs that I run for women, we've discussed in the past about reclaiming ourselves. Part of the thing that I really feel that is happening to a lot of people, not just women, so I have a heart to work with men as well in this similar area, is the disconnection that kind of trauma or that stress provides or causes with ourselves, with our body. And so there's a lot of disconnection that we experience from our body. So our head kind of gets disconnected from how we actually express ourselves. And so in my program, I have a module that we work through that's called Embody. All right, so we embody, and embodiment is, to me, similar to what in somatic experiencing is called the felt sense. We're actually connecting back into our body and how our body feels, and where in our body, like becoming self-aware of where in our body stress is lying, or pain, or emotional discomfort, like pain from emotions, loss, grief, all those things that we can hold on to through trauma and stress. So it's actually part of my, I kind of got into it because that was what I was exploring in terms of reclaiming that part of ourselves, that disconnection, and getting reconnected into our bodies. And I just hit upon this whole area of somatic experiencing, and I've had personal experience of some of the techniques of somatic experiencing. Can I share one?
Yeah,
right.
please.
Yeah, so I found this so powerful. So I was in a workshop situation, and we had partners. I wasn't leading the workshop; I was a participant, and we were guided to lie down. One of us lie down, and the other one support each other. Support the other person, and we were then guided through some questions, deep questions about, things that will bring up some emotional stuff. So what happened was the person who was lying down was supported in two key places in their body. And the first is the back of the neck, and the other place was, oh, you can't even see me. We're talking, but in the back, the back of the kidneys area, so the lower back area. Okay. And the point of that is that as babies, if we think about how babies are held in comfort and in safety and security, up against usually a parent or an adult torso. Like, I remember when I had my babies, I would hold them to myself, and I would support them at the neck, and I would support them at the base of their back, around their little bottoms. And that is exactly the two places that we were supported in this somatic experience, right? And it takes you back to that. It takes you back to that kind of key moment of being a baby, being supported and feeling safe and secure. And in that place of safety and security and support, so it's firm, it's a firm kind of, so imagine, here I am lying flat on the floor with some pillows and stuff, and then my partner has one hand on my back and one hand under my neck, like holding and supporting me firmly, right? And then I'm going through this process of in introspection and reflection on certain things. And I must say that I had this profound moment of release in that time, and the release came in the form of crying and exhale of breath. It was a physical response. So, and the release was, it was really incredible. And so experiencing that, and coupled with the idea of what I'm doing in my program in the embodiment module, reconnecting to our bodies, it just made me think this is an area that I think is so important for people, because I do see so much disconnect, in the way that we live as a society. We're very much in our heads, Rashi. We're very cerebral. Everything's kind of, we have to think about it. We make decisions. There's a lot of information, like we're in the information age. We're bombarded, we're stimulated through our senses. And I just feel that is often just like kind of disconnected. Like our head is connected to our body, but sometimes we just act from our head rather than the whole body wisdom.
Yeah.
And and so I feel that we're not really whole as people and operating in our true power and our true strength if we're not connecting into this beautiful body that we have, which has so much wisdom, and then being able to release whatever we're holding on to that is detrimental to us physically or health wise. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's important to understand that a lot of emotions, like as you said, they are sort of trapped in our body as well. It's just not a mental game. It's also like a physical way of emotions to be trapped, and the way we react, our behaviors are very much, um, our what's the word? Like our behaviors are sort of can be,
Impacted.
yeah, yeah. It's just yeah, incredible to even. But yeah, but then how? Okay, I think then the whole somatic experience is obviously, it's about self-awareness, right? I think it's basically about self-awareness of how, what kind of emotions you are going through, and how they are manifesting in a way. um
Yeah. But so many people, don't you think, stop short of where am I feeling this emotion in my body? So we might go like you did when you shared what you went through. You recognised you had emotions. You recognised that you were feeling a bit like uh, unsure, unstable, and yet you kind of squashed those down because you felt, oh, I'm so much better off than so many people. But most people don't necessarily take that extra step and go, okay, I'm feeling this emotion. Yes, I acknowledge this emotion, but where in my body is it manifesting?
hmm.
And connecting into the moment of that particular moment. So it's actually a mindfulness thing too, right? It's very connected to mindfulness because we have to come into the present moment, connect to our body. So a lot of mindfulness exercises like breathing and things that they actually do connect us back in to our body. But at the same time, um, breathing shifts energy, so that's really important. But we need to be both objective, like observers of where it's appearing, and
Yeah.
also intentional about finding it, right? So say for instance, I can recommend, there's some really great mindfulness exercises, or I've done these breathing, these mindfulness meditations, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, go and do those. But that's not necessarily going to release the emotions that we're holding in our body if we're not intentionally sort of saying, okay, where am I feeling this emotion right now? You know what I'm saying? It's a
Hmm.
different kind of intentionality.
I'll give you an example. um because if I don't know if it's kind of, if I'm making any sense at all, but I felt like not being in social contact for like such a long time with anyone. Like I have my housemates, I'm lucky. But you know what I mean, like in general scenario, and there was like constant fear of uncertainty at the back of my mind, like what's going to happen for the rest of the year, what's going to happen next year, so many plans. So I remember like, and I was, the only place I would go to is either for a walk or going to the grocery store. And I remember the first 2, 3 times when I went to the supermarket. I'm talking about like a month ago, when this was just all starting. It was getting really bizarre. Like you could hardly see people on the roads and stuff like that. I remember like feeling nervous that, oh, there are people around, and like I don't know how to explain it, but it felt
Yeah.
weird. Like I felt like I had to learn everything again. Like even though it's just a supermarket and you just have to check out and everything, I felt a bit like shaky, and I was like, okay, this is like I felt like I was in a different world, as if this was something like really unique thing that I was doing, is buying groceries. I felt like it's sort of was like a nervous energy, and it just came from this space of that I wasn't feeling confident about my situation. I was feeling that uncertainty at the back of my mind, and that was sort of manifesting and coming out in terms of like that sort of shaky, not shaky, but like a little bit in my mind. I was like, yeah, I felt a bit weird, which is bizarre. And it's sort of, is also the case. You know, I have like stage fright. So every time I have to go on a stage, even if it's the same thing that I have to do again, like I have stage fright, and I don't know why that is. Um, but I get really like my body sort of trembles. Um,
Mm, yeah, yeah,
uh,
that's a real physical response there. Mm.
yeah, and but
So,
it's just like um and I think I also feel like it's okay. I think sometimes we don't let ourselves feel any kind of um like I feel like instead of shaking, instead of saying, oh, you know, it's just fine, instead of trying to shake it off, I think sometimes it's okay to accept that, okay, you are trembling.
mm,
You know, I think that's also a thing about like consciousness and
mm,
like being aware that, okay, this is what is happening to your
yes,
body.
yes,
Like the same thing that we do in meditation,
mm,
or even in like how you describe somatic experience, that you're observing,
mm,
you sort of scan your body, like where are you feeling that stress
yes,
or trauma that you're holding on to. And yeah, I think
mm,
sometimes what I have realized in the past month and a half is like just acknowledge that that your body is sort of um, reacting in a way, like you are responding in a way that you are feeling a little stressed, you probably are feeling shaky, or you are trembling, or it is manifesting in a way, and it's okay.
mm,
And to just sit down and
100%.
feel it for a while. Like obviously you're not going to tremble for all the time, but
Mm.
just sit down and just, you know, bring your mind to it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I meant when I said observe it like what's the word? Objective, yeah? Objectively observe it
Yeah.
and then acknowledge it and be intentional about what it is you're looking for. So you're sharing an experience where you're revealing that you're quite conscious and you're quite self-aware. All right, so you
Mm.
recognized what was going on in your body. Um, and some people will get to that point of recognition, and that is actually a really important first step, right? Because
Yeah.
as soon as you start to recognize what it is, the next stage is to, as you said, accept it and intentionally work out where it's coming from, yeah,
Mm.
what the source of it is. And if you can work out what the source of it is, then that also provides, because this is a nervous system, this is the nervous system going haywire, right? So we bring stability to our nervous system by understanding the source or the cause of what's going on for us. Don't you think that provides a feeling of security? Oh, at least I know why I'm feeling like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so to acknowledge the feeling and then to go to the source of, well, where is it coming from? And that might take a bit of time. Like for you, it seemed fairly straightforward because you were acting, you know, going to the supermarket, which normally would be not a problem, but given
Yeah.
certain our circumstances, you know, there was the threat of being infected, the whole thing about the rules. You know, the most fear I've had, I have to be honest, was around being caught doing something I shouldn't do, right?
Yeah.
And so you know, we all have our you know, reasons for feeling that sense of threat, but it's exactly the same thing. That survival instinct is kicking in, shaking, sweating, lightness and shortness of breath. They are all symptoms of the fear response, right? The, you know,
Mm.
flight, fight, or freeze, and we choose, well, yeah, instinctively which one of those that we do, or you know, we act upon.
Yeah.
So you know, it's all related, and you know, you survived that pretty well. You know, you got through it. Was it different the second time you went out? Was it different the third time you went out? How was it? What was
No,
it?
it's because the situation is improving, and yeah, like obviously I've been feeling better, but I realize like feeling also because, you know, you're seeing a lot of cops around, you're seeing a lot of people being really like you picking up a fruit and someone is just like, oh, okay, like I'm not
Mm,
gonna like, it's just
yeah,
that sort of
yeah,
yeah, it's just like a weird atmosphere as well, and I think it's just a survival thing as well. And Yeah, and
And
you just,
people are responding differently at different levels to
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Like for instance, I know people that did not leave their houses pretty much for the whole of isolation.
yeah,
Whereas, I'm very social and extroverted, and there's no way. There was absolutely no way. I mean, I have people living with me, like I have kids and stuff, but at the same time, I'm going, okay, what am I allowed to do? And I'm allowed to go out for exercise with a friend. So I basically organised myself,
yeah,
nearly every single day, to be actually meeting somebody for exercise, and so because that was for me, not only was it the exercise, it was the social interaction that I really needed. So I
mm,
think we've all, social distancing is important, and it's a new way of life almost for us now. And I agree with you, Reshi. I go to the supermarket, and I'm very aware of where I'm standing now in terms of, am I too close to somebody? Am I not too close to somebody? And it's not even because I don't feel necessarily the threat of disease, okay, of infection. That's not something that's been huge for me, but I'm certainly aware of being respectful for other people
mm,
and how they feel, and also, it is possible that I could be carrying without symptoms. So, I want to try and be respectful of that for other people as well. So I think we all have our reasons, for what we're doing, and our levels of fear
mm,
around the whole situation. Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, I think, yeah, it was really, you really explained well the concept of like somatic experience, and I think I have a better understanding of it.
Mm,
Yeah, I'll try to be more aware. I think the important thing is like just allowing yourself to feel the emotions and maybe take one step further and try to understand where that emotion is coming from. Is it trapped in your body? Mentally, are
mm,
you going through something? Yeah, catching that feeling and letting it go through your body. That's what
mm,
I try to do. And yeah, it has helped me. I think self-awareness is like one of the, I would say, the first things that you should do. Just be
mm,
more aware, just being more aware of our thoughts and not being in denial um,
mm, mm.
is very important. Um,
Yeah,
but is there anything
absolutely.
else, Penny, you wanted to talk about when it comes to like somatic experience, or anything else that I probably haven't touched on?
Oh, well, I think for an initial discussion, it's been, I think, I hope so. I hope it's been interesting for people, and enlightening, and gives people a sense of, okay, maybe this is an area that, maybe I am disconnected from my body. Like, what I would love to see is people reconnecting to their whole body, and um, asking themselves these questions. Okay, what am I feeling? Where is it coming from? Where is it coming in my body? Am I getting heart palpitations? Have I got this sick stomach feeling? Is it giving me aches and pains in my back? Or, and there's certainly ways of shifting that energy. So I guess the only other thing I want to talk about is, if you find yourself stuck, in that moment, like, you and I both shared that we've had moments during the whole COVID experience, um, where we've felt like we're in denial, or we're kind of avoiding, or we're in procrastination, or our body just gives out and we get into overwhelm. Um, how do we shift that? So going out for walks and the movement in our bodies obviously is going to help shift the energy. Being intentional about it is like the key kind of thing
Yeah,
to actually, okay, I'm breathing to shift the energy. I'm moving to shift the energy. So dancing, running, walking, all of those things, and getting out into nature. Breathing exercises. So the only other thing, if you've got time, is I've just got a little exercise that I'd like to, like a practical thing that we can maybe do
yeah,
for each other. Is that all
for
right?
sure.
And to
Yeah,
share? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, okay. All right. So we're just going to sit. You can close your eyes actually if you want. And I just want you to Notice your breathing into your nose and out your mouth. And most of the time our instinctive way of breathing is quite shallow. So we're going to intentionally breathe quite deeply right to the back bottom of our diaphragm and open up our lungs. And we can hold it for a couple of seconds and then slowly let it out through our mouth. And I just want us to, wherever you are, whether you're sitting in a chair or lying down, but you can sit and maybe sit on a cushion, okay? And breathe, keep breathing. And I want you to ask this question: how do I know if I'm comfortable? Perhaps you're not comfortable in this moment. So how do you know that you're not feeling comfortable? Where in your body is it telling you that you're not comfortable? So take a moment to adjust yourself to a feeling of comfortableness. What sensations or inner experience allows us to know comfort? So these are questions that take us deeper, right? Most of us don't even think about whether we're comfortable. We might just move but to take it deeper and go, okay, so how do I know? What sensations allow me to know that I'm comfortable? So for example, you know, if we're in a warehouse and there's a whole bunch of sofas and chairs, would you know which one is comfortable before you sat on it? Like, it might look comfortable, but we have all had experiences where we've seen something in a shop and we go and sit down, it looks really comfortable, we go and sit down and it's actually not comfortable at all. So until we actually sit in the chair and experience the sofa, we don't know whether it's going to be comfortable or not. So what would let you know if it is comfortable where you are? So I want you to objectively and intentionally think about what lies under your normal everyday awareness. So it's like experiencing yourself from the inside out. And I want you to notice what arises within, within yourself, like inside your skin. Is it on your skin, under your skin? Are there any sensations? Well, what about emotions? Where are your emotions sitting? Is there tension? Do you feel tension in any part of your body? Is there tingling? Is there heaviness? These are the sensations to start to tune into. Fuzziness, your temperature. So by bringing this quality of awareness we've been discussing to the inside of who you are, your sensations, check in and see if it makes you feel more or less comfortable. Keep breathing, recognizing where it is. Does it change? Does it fluctuate? So we're not trying to change anything, we're just creating or making anything happen right now. We're just becoming aware of what is already there and allowing it, accepting it, acknowledging it. Giving permission for all of those sensations to just be within us. Okay, so now, if you need to, adjust your seat, adjust yourself to once again find comfort, only if you need to. And notice the difference from where we started to now, with this greater sense of awareness and self-reflection. I want you to relax your tongue, relax your jaw, loosening it, softening if you need. And I want you to notice how you feel now. Breathe in, breathe out. Okay, rest. And when you're ready, you can just open your eyes again and find yourself back in bed.
That was really nice.
How'd you find that?
Yeah, I feel like when I started, I had like a little bit of lower back pain, like a little bit, and then yeah, I got into that sort of comfortable position. Um, yeah,
So this is
that
a
was
daily thing we can do.
yeah, that was amazing. Yeah.
Pleasure. I feel really good too, leading myself through that.
I guess we need to do this more often. I guess we should probably do
Mm,
it a couple of times a day. Um,
mm, mm.
yeah, and it's just, yeah, it just calms you. And you also realize like sometimes you have maybe like a little bit of pain or just discomfort, and just acknowledging it and just feeling it and understanding
Yeah,
like why is it there, is just, yeah, intentionality is so important. Yeah,
and connecting.
yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Thanks, Penny, for that beautiful exercise and for this
Pleasure.
podcast. It was
Thank you.
amazing chatting with you. Hopefully, we can do another episode on some of your more learnings and experiences.
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, thanks for having me, Rashi. And it's a beautiful, kind of avenue to share. And I know that's your heart with this podcast, is to put out the I guess the topics and the
Yeah.
things that people are swirling around, the deep stuff that we can all learn from. So yeah, I appreciate
Yeah.
your space. Thank
Thank you so much, Penny. Thanks.
you.